remember my husband was just like, what's happening? Like the kitchen was just an explosion of cauliflower.
You're listening to Founded and Grounded with Ollie Collard and Dr. Becky Sage. The podcast brings you the honest realities of startup life. If you're a founder or aspiring entrepreneur, this is for you. Hello, I'm Dr. Becky Sage, co-host of Founded and Grounded, and I'm here today with Ollie to discuss episode 9 of season 6. So, who are we talking to today?
So I caught up with Giulia, who is the founder of a business called Sunny and Luna. And yeah, safe to say this episode was actually recorded a while ago, but the story is very relevant still. And they've had some good success since that initial conversation.
Yeah, I've been really excited to hear their story and then see where they are now, because it's still going and some of the things that Giulia was talking about have actually come to fruition now. So yeah, it'll be really exciting to dive into that. I do want to warn everyone that your mouth is going to be watering by the end of this episode. Mine was when I was listening to Giulia's story. And I don't know about you, when you were talking to her, I think I could almost hear like your lips smacking around some of the things she was talking about.
And she did kindly bring me some products along to the recording, so I can say as well, from first-hand experience, it is a great product, and really healthy as well. So
I've actually had it 3 nights this week already.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You're like a super fan now.
Super fan. And yeah, well, we'll get into it. We'll let Giulia describe what it is we're actually talking about right now. I won't go into much more detail. Maybe I'll tell you later on what I think of. And I've had some of the different products. But so let's listen in to what we're actually talking about and what Giulia does with Sunny and Luna.
Giulia, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. All the better for having you here. And thank you for taking this opportunity to come on Founded and Grounded, particularly at short notice as well. So I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here and tell you more about my journey and to have a nice chat together.
Indeed, that's what it's all about. So firstly, I want to dig a bit more into your background, Giulia. So you were a former model and basically you were restricting your diet at the time to just 800 calories. Can you take me back to the time where you were living in a bit of a toxic environment, living with other models and obviously really watching your weight and your figure? So can you tell us a bit more about that time in your life? Absolutely.
So that we need to think about 14 years ago when, social media were like Instagram and, like even LinkedIn was not as popular as now. So, people didn't really have a voice. So at the time when we're talking about models, I think these days on Instagram, models, they can speak, they can tell more about their story. There is a better body image. But 15 years ago, that was not the case. It was a very interesting period because it was not social media, but it was not no media. It was in between. I call it in between period. I was living in New York, so I'm from Milan. So my career model started in Milan, finished high school, and then I got scouted by an American agency, did a working visa for me and moved to the States. And I spent a couple of years in New York, and it was a great experience. Do not regret it, but it was definitely very toxic because the request they had for like the way you have to be thin, let's say, was extremely unhealthy. And unfortunately, the more you get in that circle, the less you eat. You also get paid a lot of money and you have a lot of pressure because, the agency like sponsor a visa for you. The life in New York is extremely expensive and you really have to work, right? So you get into this, again, mix of, oh my God, I need to lose weight. I'm not skinny enough. If I'm not skinny enough, I'm not going to get the job. What do I do if I don't get the job? I don't get the money. I don't pay the bills, blah, blah, blah. And also, you're surrounded by girls like you. So it's not a competition, but it kind of like you're used to not healthy standard. So, you think I have to be that skinny. And for someone like me that, I come from Italy, my family are really passionate about food. My mom manufactured wine. My dad used to have restaurants. It was a big trauma.
I can imagine. Did you feel kind of stuck at that point of time?
I did a little bit. I did. And it was I felt stuck, and you really want to get out of that, but at the same time you kind of get addicted as well, because like you also like you're young. I was like 18 years old, and like you start making really good money to be 18, so you're like, oh, I really want to make money, because then I'm gonna I'm gonna save money, and then I'm gonna stop. But then it's not as easy. It's not like A, B, C, D. It's kind of like the moment that you get addicted to that, it's like you're on a wheel, and it's really hard to get out of this wheel, and you keep want to, you think you can stop, but it's not. It doesn't work like that. It takes time. And also, at that time, like people, clients wanted a sort of very thin girl, right? And the reason is they didn't want the girl to be too. They didn't want. Now it's changing a little bit, but at the time the girl could not be that curvy, let's say, because of the why they would focus on the girl rather than on the clothes. So the reason why girls need to be so skinny is because only the clothes needs to appear, not the girl. So that's why they really need a very thin girl.
Wow. And looking at today, obviously that was 15 years ago, and as you said, you did have a good time there. You were young, earning lots of money, living in New York, so there were definitely some positives there. But looking ahead now and reflecting back on that time, if you were to have children, would you let them go into the world of modelling?
It's a good question. I think definitely if I would have the same word of today, no. I think these days is different, because I see that you cannot really be mistreated as used to be, because you see all of this. I'm gonna write a post on Instagram, which maybe now is becoming a little bit too much on the other side, but let's say models have more of a voice. And also, which is a bad thing, I think that skinny girl doesn't appeal anymore so much to the consumer, if that makes sense. If you look at a lot of fashion brand campaign that now use influencer, they look more at your Instagram followers rather than your weight, which I'm not so sure is a good thing, but definitely it's more healthy. I think being skinny is not a priority it used to be, thankfully. I think they are looking more at healthy and normal people, which is great. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think I would be open to the idea of my daughter or son going into modeling, as long as it won't be their main thing.
Nice to hear. And leading on from that then, from your background in modelling, you went on to stay in the fashion industry, working for other top brands like Topshop, another magazine. How did this then lead to you founding your first business?
In all between, COVID happened. So, going back New York, then moved back to London and start studying. And I stayed in the fashion industry because I did actually like it, So I just took the fashion industry from a different corner. So I started working as a stylist, then in production. But then, with a Topshop, Arcadia, things were not going well. And then COVID hit, right? And as mentioned before, food always played a big role in my life because of my family, because I always love cooking. And, I'm Italian, and for me, food is very much about bringing people together. Sharing a meal is about sharing also good moments. So I think, during COVID, we all probably went to a little reset moment. And my reset moment was that I really wanted to do something else with my life. And I have to say, something that I love about London is that the startup world is really booming, and people really respect your dream. Wherever you want to clean the street or save the world, I don't know, whatever dream you have, people will respect that, which is not really the case in Italy. Italy is very old, traditional, so it doesn't really push you to build your own thing. Well, London is the case. And I think, again, during COVID, being surrounded by very open-minded people in London, I really thought, I think I can really do something on my own. I can really build something that is more meaningful, because, quite frankly, also the fashion industry, one of the most polluted business ever. So I was like, I really want to change this. And and I think, during COVID, I think especially the first months, everyone was just like, oh my God, is this the hand of the world, So it was like, listen, if I don't try now, I will never try.
And to borrow a phrase from Simon Scribb's playbook, what is your dream?
I have many dreams. My main dream, I think, is creating giving food to people that not only makes them happy, but also make them healthy and feeling good in their skin, and also creating joy. Because, as I said before, for me, food is not just about intaking food, but it's also creating good moments together with people.
It's a great way to bring people together, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think my first experience when I came to London was in 2010 as a model. I was working as a model here. I was working for ASOS actually. And I don't think the food was as big as now. I think especially in London, the foodie community is so vibrant and interesting, and I really love that.
And tell me a bit more about your upbringing in Italy. And I know your nonna, so your grandmother, was a big inspiration behind your business. So can you tell me a bit more about her?
Yeah, of course. So as mentioned, family, super obsessed about food. My dad always used to tell me, you are what you eat. And yeah, I come from a very traditional family. So my grandmother, also my grandfather, actually, they were used to be really, really good chef. And so we will make everything homemade at home. And I always spent all my afternoon in the kitchen. I remember my reward was like, you do your own work and then you're allowed to cook with us. So that was the way for them to push me really to, to study. And so we would spend, days to do the recipe, to creating food, to try different things. And I love that because even my grandfather was really passionate about food, and, which was quite rare at the time, like in the 70s and the 80s, the man was like, oh, men don't cook, men work, and women, well, on that they were quite open-minded. But definitely was my grandmother that taught me this love for food. Like I remember especially, the whole pasta process, the flour, the eggs and the water, the patience that involves as well, right? Because, it's also waiting that the pasta is made in the right way. And it was, it was such, relaxing moment. And even these days, when I'm stressed, some people go for a run, some people watch a movie. For me, my meditation is cooking. It's the only way I'm really capable to switch off with the word and having my own time.
I absolutely love that. It sounds like it's a very magical process for you. And I'm going to try and get my kids into that, asking to say, if I do my homework, can I please cook with you? That would be great, rather than, playing a sport or watching a TV screen. Definitely want to get them into cooking. That makes me really happy, actually, thinking about your childhood there. So moving forwards, tell us a bit more about Sunny and Luna.
So Sunny and Luna, going back, so, I used to make my own pasta thanks to my grandmother that told me how to do it. And again, going back also to COVID, I think we all tried different things. Some people were doing, different, everyone was cooking at some point. I remember that was one of the few things we could do, I think, right? So at the time I had a lot of time on my own, and I started doing my grandmother pasta again in my own kitchen. And I was like, listen, I think we can do something which is still absolutely delicious, but why don't we try to work on something that is a bit more complementary and modern to our lifestyle is there, right? Because I think different to 20, 30 years ago, I think we want, delicious food, but I think people are also more careful about what they eat, about their health. So I just start adding, vegetables to the fresh pasta. The first vegetable that I used was actually cauliflower. And the reason why I use cauliflower is because the consistency is really easy and absorb a lot, and it has this a little bit of a carbs feeling. And the taste, it can be quite plain, right? So you can really add to anything you want. And initially it was not easy because, as you can imagine, also cauliflower contains a lot of water. So it was really trying to understand the balance between the water that you will add to the normal fresh pasta and also the water that the cauliflower retains. So I was extracting the water from the cauliflower. Like, I remember my husband was just like, what's happening? Like the kitchen was just an explosion of cauliflower. And when you boil cauliflower, it's just not the best smell, right? So it was a mess. But after trying and trying, I would start getting some result, and I start it was like, listen, I think this can really go somewhere. So friends start trying and they were really happy, but at the same time, you don't have a friend that will ever tell you, oh my God, this is disgusting. So the way I try to understand and have a real feedback, I put on Nextdoor, which is, it's this app that you can use with, with your neighbors. And I start selling on that, which quite frankly, I don't even know if you can do that because, health and safety, it's not that bad. But I was honest to the people. I was like, listen, I'm just doing this in my kitchen. And people were paying me to buy. So again, I started selling stuff on Nextdoor from my own kitchen.
So that gave you the validation there. That
It gave me the validation, exactly. I needed the validation for, like someone that was happy to spend money for something, right? And got a really good feedback. They loved it. And I was like, listen, I think this can really go somewhere. And at the same time, I started listening to a lot of podcasts. That was cooking podcast. And, like I was really inspired by all the story of this entrepreneur. So, like a lot of, businesses built from their kitchen, from a garage, whatever. Yeah. And so I started looking for a manufacturer on Google. So I'm looking at and it's so funny because I remember the first time I typed, how do you find a manufacturer, ? On Google. And I'm just like, okay. And at the time, then I realized that a lot of, like this sort of pasta and product that even, they sell in the States and the UK, everything is made in Italy, which I was like, okay, this is interesting because probably myself Italian and speaking the language might be a little bit easier. And then, so that's what I did. So the second part of the COVID, I spent 6 months in Italy, driving around looking for a manufacturer. And again, trying to picture a girl with a PowerPoint presentation and little sample made in their own kitchen, knocking the door of this massive manufacturer. And they were like, who are you?
How did you find us? Yeah.
Exactly. But I think, again, because it was COVID and people didn't have so much time on their own. I mean, everything was crazy at that time. I mean, to be honest, I don't know how this will happen today, but I think I had the moment at the time that everything was legit. I don't know. It was a fantastic. It was a such horrible and fantastic moment for me. And so so I went all around Italy to find a manufacturer, and eventually I did find one that I still, now we have more than one actually, but the main one we have an amazing relationship. Like they are almost my best friend. We text on WhatsApp. They absolutely believe in Sanya Luna. But it took 6 months of tests and again, the hardest part was trying to convince people because, initially you don't have the volume. They need to test the machine they need to test the recipe on the machine. So it was a long process, but it was a fantastic journey where I learned a lot. And I think it was such a good lesson for me.
I love that. A couple of things in that, obviously, about, just the story of you, firstly in your kitchen, like having every pot and pan out, cooking loads of cauliflower, your husband looking at you like you kind of some mad scientist or something, and then obviously going on this 6-month excursion over to Italy, trying to find the manufacturer, banging on doors and, asking about the minimum order quantities and how they could tool it and manufacture it. But ultimately you made it happen, right?
I did. I really did. But I think because I was quite persistent, and I think when you go look for a manufacturer and you're technically no one, it's like pitching to an investor, right? You need to sell the dream. You need to convince the manufacturer that you're gonna make them rich, to make it very short and clear.
Yeah. So talking about that time then, so you came back to England, you got a manufacturer on board. What happened next?
Then what happened next is I went to, there is this festival which is called Bread and Jam, and I signed up for that, and I signed up to some of these pitching, and funny enough, I didn't have a packaging. The company was barely registered, to be honest, but I got 3-4 pitching to client. Yeah, I remember it was Whole Foods, Planet Organic, Holland & Barrett, and I think something, for me it was just 3. Yeah, sorry. So Holland & Barrett, Planet Organic, and Whole Foods. And Whole Foods and Planet Organic, they absolutely loved it, which is really interesting because, I didn't have a packaging. So I remember the way I presented was like a plastic bag with 4 gnocchi in the pack. Huh. And just, again, like a leaflet with a couple of thoughts. And I think if I think about this now, I'm like, wow, I would never do the, but it's so interesting when you start a business, you're a little bit naive.
But you were raw, you were passionate, you had a great product.
Exactly, but because if I think now, the way we need to pitch to a client, I mean, there is so much work. You need to look at your sales data. You need to, of course, we are pitching also different sort of scale business, but still, like Whole Foods, I mean, was still a really great client. But I think the buyer loved so much my idea. And she was like, I've been waiting for something like this for so long. I don't have anything like this. And I've been waiting for this, which was something that really gave me the confidence that I was actually bang on of what was needed in the UK market. Because you have a lot of traditional pasta in the UK, but you don't have nothing that is fresh and contains vegetables, and at the same time, the same nice feeling and taste of the traditional Italian pasta. Or you go in the ambient category and you have this proliferation of chickpea, ambient pasta, but it's not the same thing. So I think that gave me the confidence, and definitely seeing her so excited, I was like, well, I think I can actually really have a real brand here.
Amazing. And now you're stocked in some amazing places, like you said, Whole Foods, Planet Organic, Selfridges, lots of delis over across London. And obviously the FMCG market is very highly competitive, but you've spoken very clearly about how you stand out from the competition. So why do you think your product has been so successful in the early stages?
Because, again, I think we are the first company, the first brand that is trying to disrupting a very old category, which is the fresh pasta. If you look at the FMCG world, there are so many great startups when we're talking about drinks, when we're talking about snacks, etc. I mean, there is so many cool companies with amazing products. When you look at the fresh pasta category, you really have all brands like Giovanni Rana, etc. There is not a startup brand. I think we are the only one currently. And I think there are different reasons. I mean, fresh product, it's really hard. Shelf life is hard because, you combine vegetables. So, I mean, this comes with a price, right? It's not that it's just, but I think the reason why we've been so successful in such short amount of time is precisely because we don't really have many competitors for now.
But like you say, if there is obviously a traction there and, sales start to happen and increase, then it will attract new players into the market. But you are essentially the first to market.
Exactly. And so, I mean, on the 1st of September, which in a couple of weeks, we're going to finally launch in Ocado. And that's going to be our first national listening, which is going to be great. And also now we are also tackling a little bit more the food service. So we are starting a collaboration with the Ivy and Coco di Mama for October. So things are happening again very quickly. And I think, again, the reason is people want to be healthy, but they don't want to compromise on food. People don't want boring food. And I understand.
Yeah.
So, this diet concept, etc., I don't think it works anymore. But at the same time, they are still careful about what they eat. So it's all about, I believe a lot into balance. And I think about having a balance between health and taste. And the moment you are strong on that, people are super happy to buy and support you. Also, something that I really love about the UK market is the fact that British are very early adopters. Like, they love new products, they are curious, they love the idea of trying new things. Yeah. Well, it's not the case for the Italians.
That's good to know. I mean, yeah, me and my wife are big foodies. We love eating nice food, and yeah, we obviously want it to be healthy at the same time, but we're completely turned off by things like Huel and meal replacement stuff. Like, there's no joy in that. Like, who wants to do that? Like, I don't get it personally. Obviously, there's a market for it, though. But, yeah, when you're saying about having, tasty, nutritious food that is good for you, like, you're completely selling it to me.
No, yeah. And I think, like, exactly. And but this, I think, is growing and growing and growing over. I think people are more... they are more careful about not compromising, and they are not happy to, to get boring and sad food. Food is playing a bigger role in their life. I think that's what's happening, which is great.
And tell me a bit about your first business, GG Green. And I'm interested to know also that sustainability seems to be a bit of a reoccurring theme with both of your ventures. So what does this mean to you, and how does it show up in your businesses?
Well, Gigi Green was just a small parenthesis between Sunny and Luna. Let's say that at the time I was already thinking about working and creating, like a healthy, sustainable product, always in the food space. It was just a tiny bit different because it was in France. We were more focusing on organic food. So, France are very big on organic food.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think right now the focus is shifting more about local food, traceability, etc. So for us, for example, we use all like small communities to get ingredients. That's what I'm really careful. Like also we are not into the process of like B Corp, etc. Let's say that Gigi Green helped me to work on Sanya Luna, was something that I was doing at the same time when I was at Topshop, and was the moment that like the word of FMCG was talking to me, but I was not ready yet. So that was just a small parenthesis when I was in France, but was the sustainability part that I was really attracted, this idea of working with, again, small communities, like where we get the vegetables. So, for example, now all the cauliflower we get from a very small company in Emilia-Romagna, all the flour we get from, like Lombardia. So that is definitely the part that for me, it's not about bio, it's about supporting community, it's about making sure that, we get all local ingredients, we don't get ingredients that are not there. The part that I think we still need to work on is the part, of course, we are manufacturing in Italy and shipping everything in the UK. We are trying to find more green way to transport the food to the UK. Something that I worked really hard was the shelf life, because of waste. I hate food wastage. I'm really big on that. So we actually managed to work on having 90 days of shelf life, which is pretty long for a fresh. Yeah.
That's really long,
without any preservatives or any, like it's a very clean label. All our product, 5 ingredients, which is like flour, water, salt, and vegetables. That's it. So I think that's the two parts are really focused. So local ingredients, local community, and shelf life to reduce waste. I think the part that we still really need to work on again is transport, trying to really find a way to get the products over here, without using super polluted trucks.
And is the longer term plan always to manufacture in Italy using these small communities?
I think the idea is at some point to also find a manufacturer in the UK. The problem that I think after Brexit, the UK is reorganizing a little bit. But the idea is, I think I would like to keep one manufacturer in Italy because the plan is also, working with other countries. So we're already selling in Italy just in food service. We don't do retail. But the plan is to also, start selling in Germany and France. And I think for that, we will probably use the European manufacturer. But I think in the UK, we definitely need to fund, a plan B. Probably next year, we are looking to have a facility here to make everything not only more ecological, but also, easier.
For sure. And tell me about the product ranges that are available at the moment.
At the moment, we have 3 products, soon 4. So we have our big superstar, which are the cauliflower gnocchi. So the cauliflower gnocchi, initially people like cauliflower gnocchi. They sound a little bit scary, but it's actually our, superstar because we sell a lot of that. So it's just cauliflower, a little bit of rice flour, water and salt. And the reason they are so popular is, number one, from a nutritional point of view, are fantastic because it's one of your 5 a day, it's gluten-free, very good with fiber, etc. But also you don't cook in a traditional way. You fry in the pan with a little bit of olive oil. And people love this idea of frying the pan because it really gives that texture and the taste. It is a game changer. It sounds so stupid, but it's actually a really game changer. And some people, they just eat like this. Some people, they like to add the sauce, etc. It's very up to you. And kids love it. And as you can imagine, parents that they struggle to give vegetables to the kids is such a good way to intake vegetables because the cauliflower is eaten.
Interesting. I think I'm gonna have to try it out in our kitchen because we've often like roasted vegetables and put gnocchi into the like a tray bake in the oven, but actually doing it in a a frying pan and
Yeah.
hiding the vegetables essentially in there for the kids.
Exactly. And also you can also do in the oven. So you have, it's a very easy way to cook it. And then we have lentil tagliatelle. So this is a bit more niche product in the way that is super high in protein. So normally we have a lot of people that do a lot of sport and they consume that precisely to intake more protein. It's a long pasta, and again, it requires maybe a tiny bit more cooking, a tiny bit more work on the sauce, etc. So it works well, but I would say it's a little bit more niche compared to the gnocchi that is super easy to eat. And then the third product is spinach and cauliflower. So it's gnocchi. So it's a blend of spinach and cauliflower, and it's a little bit more soft. And again, when we launched it, I was a little bit concerned because I was like, I'm afraid it's going to be a little bit of, like cannibalization between the two products. But actually, not at all. And people really, really love it. I think something that I found out is that people love spinach in this country, and I love the color. I was really surprised, and I think the mix of cauliflower and spinach, it gives such a nice texture. And the green, I think eating something green that tastes good makes people feeling good because they feel, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
So and it still tastes good. So these are the three products. We have ravioli coming with Ocado next month. Amazing. So it's going to be a high-protein vegan ravioli. And then we have 2 more products coming in January that I cannot say yet.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to hearing more on those. Are you able to share any sort of numbers behind the business in terms of like maybe your split in kind of sales from stockist versus direct-to-consumer? Like, where are you seeing the most growth?
Retail, definitely. I think for the next year, retail is probably going to be our focus. We do a little bit of D2C, but I think we are not super focused on that. I think retail so far has been our best market. Food service is really picking up, actually. So we do food service in Italy to cruises and restaurants in Milan. Yeah. And then we are now starting in the UK, as mentioned before, the Ivy. And then, we used to sell our cauliflower gnocchi to Soho House, actually, last year. And now we're going to start a collaboration with Cocco di Mama. And I love food service. What's interesting is that they always been not really sexy. They always been like, oh, yeah, food service. Well, I think now, because chef, working with chef is so rewarding. I love working with chef because they give you so much inspiration the way you can do the recipe. And if people go to the restaurants and they try the gnocchi, they normally say, oh, I really like this, how can I do this, etc. I want to buy it. So I think the food service compared to years ago is really picking up, and it can give a lot of also credibility, right? Because if a chef buy your product and use your product to cook, it means it's really good. So we are trying to combine a little bit, also food service and retail. I have to say we are a very small team. So we are currently 4 people. And you need to focus on one thing to do well. You can't do everything because otherwise it just gets it just gets very confusing. I think also for your clients, it's like, so who are you? Are you focusing on retail? Are you focusing on D2C? So I believe in doing less but well rather than trying to do everything at the same time. However, I think I would like in the future to be bigger and build more of a community on our D2C channel. We just need a few more products for that.
So Becky, we had a founder on the show recently who told us his son said to him, Dad, you're married to your work. Being a parent, no one wants to hear that. I mean, it literally cuts through everything, and it stuck with me ever since he said that. Because, having 2 young kids, you've got to ask yourself the bigger questions in life. Are the things that actually matter sorted?
Like the boring admin that no one wants to do.
Exactly, like life insurance has been on my list for years, sat between updating a will, setting up a power of attorney, which is why today's sponsor really caught my attention. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, all online. Quote in seconds, apply in as little as 10 minutes. No medical exam, just a few health questions online. Up to 3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 4,000 reviews. Take 10 minutes to get covered today with life insurance through Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/founded. That is ethos.com/founded. nextdoor.com/founded. Application times may vary, rates may vary.
Do less, but do it well. That's a really powerful entrepreneurial mantra, but it's not always easy. And I think the biggest lesson I got from Giulia was how we find that place of what to prioritize and what to prioritize at particular points in the entrepreneurial journey, because it changes. It's a dynamic thing. And I think that one of the things that she said just really resonated with me. It was really powerful. And she said, do those around you respect your dream? And I thought that, I mean, immediately that doesn't necessarily link to what are you prioritizing, but actually it got me thinking about the idea of, are you respecting your dream? Because if you're not, then you're kind of being pulled in multiple directions automatically, right? And you're trying to please others, or you're trying to just do what you think you're meant to do. Whereas what I really heard in here was this idea of leaning into that dream, and that therefore helped to prioritize along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge that has been around since the start of time, I'm sure, with people running businesses. It's like you've got so much that you could do and can be doing, and it never really feels like you've finished. But that's what you have to do as a founder and a business owner, is be able to prioritize what you want to get done and get it done, because otherwise you can overwork yourself, you can feel unfulfilled, and just feel unaccomplished in that day to day.
And I think it's it just makes me think of that idea as well of being. You can get very torn as a founder, and particularly if you're somebody who's quite creative and you kind of got all of these different ideas. And I think there's something different from that idea, that thing of satisfying one of your single ideas, or like, oh, there's a new thing, versus that like real core driving force and that North Star dream that you're working towards, which sometimes does involve you just having to kind of get down and do the nitty gritty, and it doesn't always feel perfect. And sometimes you actually do have to ignore some of the little whims that might be on the side in order to follow that core dream. Yeah. But it's not always easy to know which of those things is actually the real thing and the thing you need to prioritize at the time.
It's not, and I think once you have identified it, though, it makes life 10 times easier. I'll give a recent example. So we're partnering with a charity locally called Talk Club, and the founder from there summed it up brilliantly. He was like, any conversation I have, does it bring in men or does it bring in money? So if it brings in either thing, then it's going towards that North Star.
You might want to say a bit more about what Talk Club is.
Yeah, so sorry.
I could be like, does it bring in men? Does it bring in money?
It could be misconstrued, couldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, either way, all good.
So Talk Club is a men's mental fitness charity that is passionate about creating conversations amongst men, given the fact that suicide is the biggest single killer of men in this country and globally as well. It's a big issue. So they're trying to create conversations between men, do fun things together, all with the benefit of, removing that taboo and talking openly. Yeah,
that makes me think of the kind of one metric that matters idea. And perhaps in that case, it's like, how many people can we actually engage with and help? And of course, the money's going to enable that. But that one metric that matters is like how many people we can help in that particular case. I thought listening to Giulia was, she just felt so clear in terms of what that passion is and how she can bring that passion into the business. And sometimes that got me thinking about, why is it that we don't always prioritize those passions or those dreams? Or, I think that a lot of us stand in the way. And I've certainly had times in the past where I feel like the dream or the passion is the last thing that gets prioritized. It's almost like, no, just serve everything else, and actually, well, what does it matter what I really want? Or, because it feels maybe selfish, or it feels But perhaps it's even deeper than that. Perhaps it's that it feels scary, right, to admit and to prioritize the thing you really, really want.
Yeah. I think often that we do self-sabotage or unconsciously not work towards something because there's that feeling of uncomfortableness that, you know, if it is quite big or quite scary or like you're just delaying something and not prioritizing it because it maybe appears too overwhelming. I think that the fact in Giulia's case, I think, you know, she had a very successful career as a model, and I think she's tasted what good looks like for her.
Yeah.
And so she's really focused on, but obviously saw the dark side of that industry and like worked out, well, there's lots of things I didn't like about that. So actually, this is now what I want to do. I'm very passionate about food and healthy eating, and I've seen a big gap in the market. And yeah, it's like that driving force, isn't it? It's actually pulling her into that dream.
I was actually working with a group of founders yesterday, and they're a very diverse group. They've literally come from different parts of the world, different backgrounds. Some of them are really startup focused. Some of them have come from an academic background. Some have just come from kind of a roll your sleeves up, get on with the job kind of background, you know, like a bit more vocational. And as I was looking at all of them, I was really thinking about how the ones who are able to stand up and seem more confident and bold, and what was that? Where is it coming from? And I think it's similar to what you just said about Giulia coming from that modeling background. She was in New York. She's getting booked for things. She's, you know, she's played at that top level. And it's almost, yes, there's those darker things to question, but also when it comes to the idea that you can be successful and you can picture that life, you can vision it, and you can actually get to it. I feel that that's such a major part of the difference in mindset between those who are kind of struggling a little bit more and maybe playing smaller, and those who actually are able to stand up and go, no, I'm going to create something, and quality is going to be a real important aspect of what I create, and I'm going to push to make it happen in the way I vision it happening. Versus, oh, well, maybe we need to compromise on this and maybe we need to compromise on that because otherwise the business might not work and perhaps we can't get, you know, the customers or the money or the partnerships.
It's so true. I think she's seen that path to success already, whereas somebody who may not have been on that journey or tasted something at a kind of a higher level, then that journey is a lot foggier and they maybe can't see how they're going to get through it. They know where they want to go, but it's just a bit hazy. Whereas in her position, she's tasted success. And I think what it comes down to is identity. She is strong in her identity, and she knows what she wants, and she's not afraid of it, and she's going after it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I almost get chills when you say that, because that idea of what is your identity as a founder, can you step into that person that, you know, you want to be, or you're putting yourself out there that the business needs you to be, that the vision needs you to be, or are you timid around that?
Yeah, and it's a real difference between, some people think that, you know, it has to be these real big extrovert personalities that are really bold and brash. It doesn't. It needs to be a certain level of gravitas, and you can feel them. Yeah. You can feel them in a room.
Yeah. And gravitas, and again, I see this all the time with the founders that I work with, gravitas is very much not the same thing as who's the loudest, who's the most extrovert, or you can really feel it. And sometimes it's who's actually the quietest in the room. But when they do say something,
it has impact.
It has impact. Yeah. And so something that Giulia talked about in terms of gaining confidence was those early interactions with the market. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because I think so many people don't go out there into the marketplace because they don't feel confident, because they don't know yet. Whereas in her story, it felt really, really clear that those first interactions she had with the marketplace were good, and they helped to give her information, but they also did give confidence in the direction that she was going.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to do that validation, don't you, to see if it's a problem that you're actually solving that's big enough, and get feedback on the product and iterate. And I mean, if you you don't go on that journey, then you're very, very unlikely to be successful, and you end up going around in circles chasing your tail because you haven't got the feedback from the market. So unfortunately, even if you're a first-time founder, that's what you need to do, right?
Yeah, and I think that there's many founders who almost fall back on, say, investment money. One of the things in Giulia's story is she's bootstrapped up till now, and I think it sounds like obviously again she'd had kind of a successful career already. Perhaps she was in a position to put a little bit more money in and have a bit of space to do some of that in the beginning than other people might have. But what that meant is that it was then really important to get out there and get into the market and have those conversations early on and not fall back on, oh, we've got a bunch of money in now and that's bought us a bit of time and I haven't got to worry so much. So I think that often bootstrapping can be better for companies in terms of them actually realizing the importance of getting out there and interacting with the market straight away.
Yeah, because if you've either got personal savings or, I don't know, a family situation that's beneficial, then you're going to become probably a bit over-reliant on your runway, and you're not going to push as hard. Whereas if you're a bit more savvy and know that if you ultimately want this to be successful, then you need to generate revenue. It's not going to, any funding you get is going to get you to the next milestone, but it's not going to inherently build you a sustainable business model, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's again the kind of comfort zone thing, isn't it? Of if you don't get out there and start talking to people, it also becomes almost bigger and bigger, I think, as a barrier when it's actually the gateway you need to open, but you see it as this bigger barrier. And if you're kind of doing a lot of focus on what it is you're building and spending time on that, and you might feel like I'm getting up every day and I'm working on the business, but actually the business is the customers. So if you're not getting out there and talking to them, customers, or in this case I think the partners, the distributors, the supermarkets and stuff are really important. So they're the ones that were the gatekeepers. So she got out there and spoke to those people.
And I think this is like a part of a bigger issue in business and life, that often the way that you need to go is the real fear that you need to lean into. And like you said, a gateway is such a good word because it then will open up and expand and get you on that journey. But yeah, you need to do that uncomfortable work if you want to get the results. So like you might get somewhere by doing it in a bit more of a haphazard way, but you're not going to get to the place you really want to get to.
Yeah, and I do think there's a sense of procrastination sometimes, and that sense of, even if it's what I see quite a lot is people going out and about and doing their networking or going to events, and they sort of end up in a very comfortable position where they're speaking to the same people over and over again pretty much, and they're not actually widening that network, and they're not actually getting out there and talking to the gatekeepers or those people who can open the doors.
I think it's so true. I think you default to what you feel comfortable doing, whether that's a job or running a business, whatever it is. You will probably spend more time doing the things that you want to do, even if you know deep down that actually that isn't going to push the needle forward. So yeah, it's a hard one because I think some of those things are deeply entrenched, aren't they, in the behaviours that you've built up over years, if not decades.
And actually, I've seen founders who can burn themselves out doing that. So they're not really making any progress, but they're pushing, and then they're getting less and less clear about what they need to do because they're getting exhausted running around in circles. So I think some of those moments are also about stepping back and getting objective about what the business needs. And can you just go, okay, hang on, no, the business needs X, Y, and Z. How do I go about achieving those things?
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's hard to do that. You're talking about like a hard reset or like literally taking that time to stop. But I think in the moment, if you're not getting to where you want to get to, ultimately you're going to have built up a lot of frustration. And then you've got all of these things on your plate and you're trying to do them all, but you're doing them all really badly and you're not taking that action on the things that actually need doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said before, you can end up, and I've been guilty of this as well, it's like chasing your tails, going around in circles, or not really making that proper progress that you should be making.
Yeah. And I guess the idea of passion has come up a lot already in this episode. I feel like a lot of people will say, if you're passionate enough, then you can make it happen. But that's a perfect example, that kind of chasing your tail. A lot of those people I see, and again, I think I've been in this situation as well, you are really passionate about the thing you're trying to solve, but you've got yourself kind of stuck somewhere, stuck in a bit of a cycle. And so it's not a lack of passion, but it's about like not putting it into the right place. And I guess one of the things I want to think about, so Giulia's clearly very passionate. And what I really want to listen to next in the next part of her story is how she's then turned that passion into progress, especially at those challenging times. So let's listen to part 2 and see what Giulia's got to say about that.
So Giulia, we're currently living in a cost of living crisis. It's no easy time to be in business with spiralling costs, hard to attract talent, lots of issues in supply chain and manufacturing. Tell me about some of the most difficult times in running your business and how did you navigate through those tough times?
I think one of the most difficult ones was end of 2022 when war in Ukraine started, and like all the energy bills went skyrocket and the cost of the ingredients as well. So there was a moment that the manufacturer had to really increase our prices. And at the same time, there was all the Brexit, the new rules of Brexit were just out. So it was super hard to find a good balance between having a profitable business and at the same time, not selling price for super expensive and making sure to pay the bills I think was a really, really hard challenge. Like the way to making sure, I know I'm someone I don't want to compromise on quality. Mm-hmm. So it was a game, it was like a puzzle. So making sure that you achieve the right price, that you pay your bills, but you don't want to compromise on quality. And at some point, I remember at the time I had to make a choice. So, currently we are in the niche market. Our products don't come for cheap, but because also, we are not in mass market yet. And that's the final goal. I want to make healthy, tasty food approachable for everyone. But unfortunately, the price cannot go down until the moment our volume are such that the cost then go lower. But I think, but then at the time I decided, listen, I rather not compromise on quality. I prefer keeping the price a bit higher, but making sure that I deliver taste and quality to the client, because I think that will reward us. And that's what happened, because even if our products are expensive, we range between $4.99 and £5.90 pound in retail, which for someone Italian, it's really expensive. But I think because, all our ingredients, again, we support small communities and, we don't compromise on, on taste, etc. So we make sure that all the ingredients are really good. I think people recognize that. Mm-hmm. And even if the price is expensive, maybe they buy less, but they buy well. And I'm really happy that I took the decision. It was not easy. I was struggling. I was like, what do? I compromise. I buy cauliflower from bigger company that is not fresh, maybe, etc. But then I was like, no, I want to follow my passion. I want to follow my gut. I'm sure people will understand that the price is high because I don't want to compromise on this. This is too important.
That's your non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, exactly. It was my decision, and I'm happy that I took that. Yeah,
it's paid off. And out of interest, how many people does the packet feed? Is it one person or two people?
Two people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at it like that, then it's not that.
It's not too bad. I think for me, I find it very expensive because in Italy pasta is very cheap, right? But then you can compare the same thing with coffee, right? Yeah. I mean, I just spent 3 weeks in Italy, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I mean, like with the cost of 3 coffee in London, I buy, with the cost of 1 coffee in London, I buy 3 in Italy. So I think for me that was expensive, and also I like the idea to making sure that everyone can buy the pasta. My idea is, I'm really focused on having also an impact on health, and the obesity rate in the UK, especially on kids, is quite high. So that's why I also really focus on accelerating our journey and to get into bigger retail, precisely because that is going to be the only way to make the cost, more affordable for every person, especially right now where people are struggling with the cost of life.
Looking back, Giulia, tell me about a mistake that you made with your first business that you vowed not to make in this new business.
Do not compromise on things that are too important for you. For example, what I just said, like go slower, but go well. Recently, I did another mistake, actually. I'm fresh postpartum. I give birth in May to a little boy.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I was so focused on growing the company, etc., that I did have 2 days of maternity leave, literally. And then I was pitching to Ocado 10 days later. Then we have Taste of London 2 weeks later. And then I went to the BBC to do a program. And I think that was too rushed, because I did few mistakes here that right now I cannot really share. You will probably see when things going to be out. But I think sometimes you feel that when you have a train coming, you need to jump straight away. And I think that's not true. I think sometimes you can allow yourself to think 1 second. It's like it's not going to break or make the company. And a company normally fails not because you did a mistake. A company fails when the founder is tired, when the founder doesn't find any motivation anymore. But I think it's more dangerous to try to do everything at the same time than actually staying still. And I think that's something that I still need to learn. It's still a work in progress. I really recommend to think through your decision and sometimes to, again, stay still rather than just jump on every occasion and train you have around. Because eventually, if you don't prioritize what's really important for the company, you will get tired. And that's the biggest danger for the company.
I completely agree with that. And I think sometimes it can be all-consuming, but I think you do need time to think about your important decisions very rationally. I always use a thing where if it's, will it matter in 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 years? So if you're looking at things more objectively, taking that helicopter view, then you ultimately make better decisions at the end of the day.
Completely. And I really love this podcast, Thrive, by Arianna Huffington, that she's really focused on mental health. She's very big on entrepreneurial journey, but she's also very big on making sure that your mental health is good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not operating at your best, then, it's going to end badly, right? You've got to look out after yourself first and foremost.
That's the most important thing, because also that has a repercussion on the company as well, right? So it's super important.
How have you funded the company to date?
So far, initially just myself, so all my savings from modeling. And then I'm about to close a raise. So I raised 500K. It was mainly angels and friends and family that, they follow the journey of the company. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing news. Yeah.
Yeah. We're about to close it. It's going to be probably end of September. So that gives us a little bit of juice to, do our first hires and to invest on the important things. And it's beautiful also. I feel really lucky and blessed because, we are not into the VC world that gets is a different game. All our investors they really believe in me, right? Because initially the company initially is you.
They're investing in you. Yeah.
They're investing in you. It's not the company yet. So I think it's beautiful being surrounded by investors that not only, they supported from a financial point of view, but they're all very involved from thinking and working together. So, we have a board, we meet, we discuss, and I involve them very much. And I love that because they're all coming from different backgrounds. So it really gives a lot of value. Amazing.
What's your deepest fear, Giulia?
My deepest fear is having fear. Because when you have fear, it completely blocks you. I mean, at least for myself. And sometimes you really need to step back and realize that it's all in your head. I mean, it took me, I did a lot of years of therapy, but that's the thing. Having fears is one of the things that it really frees me. And I think every time that I was so scared and so afraid, but then eventually I was like, no, Giulia, don't be scared. You can do it. It's only in your head. And I took the risk. It always ended up super well. The problem is when you look alive and when you look straight, everything looks like very tangled and confusing. But then when you look back, everything makes so much sense. You're just like, why when I look back, everything is pristine clear, and when I look straight, everything looks like, oh my God, what I'm going to do, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
But then I realized that is that fear that really makes you grow. I mean, in the comfort zone, I never achieve anything, right? Yeah. And I think, you know, even we were talking about mistakes, right? You asked me what's the biggest mistake you did. And I did many mistakes, but at the same time, all the mistakes are the one that made me this day. So I'm like, well, thankfully that happened. I remember my first internship, my boss told me, I'm happy that you did a mistake because you learn. That's the way you learn,
it's the
right?
only way you learn, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the best experience you can have, right? So, but then going back to your question, what's your biggest fear is having fear, because having fear is something that it blocks me.
It holds you back, doesn't it? And I think 99% of your thoughts and how you're thinking isn't actually going to happen, right? So
exactly.
If you remove all of that, then...
And you're kind of like, you know, like you're completely dazed and you're not clear and you just can't see in the right direction. So normally when that happens, I'm trying to stay still. It's the only thing I can do, because otherwise I would not act in the right way.
And talking of things being complex and not straightforward, building a business can be all-consuming at times, and obviously you're going to be a mother-to-be soon as well. How do you try and maintain some balance in your life?
I'm quite big in running, cooking, and sport. So that's my way to go. I mean, when you have your business, it's so interesting because some days you feel like you're conquering the world. Some days you're like, oh my God, what I'm doing with my life. So it's such a roller coaster. So the only way to be healthy and sane for me is, again, cooking is the way that I really switch off. And running, I'm a big reader as well. That helps. But definitely, yeah. The cooking and the running is my way to looking after yourself. You know, when we were talking before, like the mental health is so key when you're a founder. Like it's really, really, really important. You must look after yourself, because otherwise you will have a burnout.
So true, and I've seen it time and time again. Talking of sacrifices, is there something that you've sacrificed either consciously or subconsciously during building this business?
I sacrifice my time all the time. You know, it's so interesting. I just came back, you know, from holiday, but I don't think I had a proper holiday for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, there is not a day in my life that I don't work. Like, maybe, and for working, I don't mean, you know, like staying in front of the laptop, meeting people, but just like I'm always on my phone, or even on the Sunday, I always have to do something.
Or even just thinking.
Even just like sometimes I have an idea and I'm like, okay, I need to write this down. So what I do really miss is the being free in my mind. Like I used to be a big reader. I'm not anymore because I'm constantly checking emails and constantly say, oh my God, I need to see this, I need to focus on that, I need to call that person, etc. Which is great, it's very fulfilling, but I miss the feeling of not thinking, the feeling of like
switching
the days
off.
over, exactly. And sometimes, actually, this was the first time in a long time I was on holiday. I was like, will I ever one day will I ever be free again? And I'm not saying I want to, but I think it comes at some point to founder that you need a break. For break, I mean a real like mental. You know, like it doesn't matter if you go on holiday on the beach, on the mountains, etc. Is literally in your mind. So I think that sometimes is the thing that it's hard, especially.
But you enjoy it so much that's
you do enjoy a lot, and I love it. But I suffer a lot when I'm on the beach and I'm laid down and I open my book and I struggle. And I realize I'm not capable to read, when I'm not capable to disconnect. That when I I suffer a little bit because
That's the telltale sign for you.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you talked briefly about having therapy. Are you still going through that?
Yeah, I
yeah.
do. Well, I took a break. In the last month, but I think I would love to start over also because, like being a mother, the business, I mean, I have quite a lot of things going on, and I think sometimes I need it for clarity, like it's really good to speak loud and having someone to actually walk through your thoughts.
100%. And it should be viewed as a positive thing.
Yeah.
And in the States, everybody's got a therapist or a shrink or whatever they want to call them. Whereas in this country, there's still a bit of a taboo around it, I think.
Well, let's go to Italy. I mean, if you say that you're seeing a shrink, they look at you like, oh my God, are you sick? You need to go to the hospital. I've always been super open about it. And I think everyone should go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like it's something that it's a blessing if you can. It's a gift that you can do to yourself and, to your partner and to your kids.
Yeah, it enables you to be a better person.
Exactly. And you feel better about yourself as well. Yeah. It gives you so much clarity. It's amazing. It's tiring sometimes. I mean, sometimes you're like, oh my God, I wish I could just go and have a drink. But then when it's like going to the gym. It's like a workout.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing that maybe initially you're like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. But then you leave and you feel like, oh, this was actually so necessary.
Yeah, I think with anything in life, it's that short-term pain over the long-term gain, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Who supports you outside of that, either like practically, emotionally, strategically?
Well, my husband is being very strong, is being really a warrior next to me, and I will not be here without him probably. And my friends. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of friends, very close friends. And I mean, as I mentioned before, quite a few of them, they also support me in the Sanya Luna journey. And then I think I'm quite a reserved person. I do share, but I'm not someone that overshare. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say a mix of friends and family that has been my biggest fan, number one. And the cats. So I'm going to tell you a funny thing. So Sanya Luna are actually my cats.
Ah, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So the reason why I called the company Sanya Luna is because when I was working on the recipes, the cats were all around me. So I was like, I own you one.
I love that story. They're gonna be famous.
They're famous. So it's so funny because sometimes people ask me how is Sanya Luna, and sometimes I'm like, the company or the cat or both.
Okay, if I wasn't sold already, the fact that Giulia's business is named after her cats has sold me. So I wanted to talk about pricing, because this is something that a lot of founders have a challenge with.
Yep.
And Giulia seemed to get there in a way that was very pragmatic, actually, and pretty driven by values. So this idea of like knowing that the North Star was about producing something of quality, and that ultimately being the thing that they're not going to sacrifice, which then had an impact on pricing, and especially with after the Ukraine war and with costs going up, manufacturing costs going up, transport costs going up, meaning that price had to be a little bit higher. But why do you think so many founders get so stuck on pricing?
It's probably quite deep rooted. I think it probably comes back to having issues related to money. I would kind of fundamentally say, I think with pricing, it's all got to tie into obviously the positioning. So obviously naturally, if you're going after a premium product with smaller production runs with high quality ingredients, then naturally the pricing has to be reflective of that. But then the whole brand's got to be reflective of the pricing. And then if you were then trying to put that product into Lidl or somewhere that doesn't necessarily have that same connotation with quality, like premium products. Yeah. Although they're stocking lots of good products these days, but I think it all comes back to psychology. Like it's all got to match, and I think as a consumer, if something doesn't align, you intuitively tell, even if you don't do the deep dive analysis in your head, like you just know that it doesn't match up if the quality and the brand and the pricing isn't all intertwined and aligned.
Yeah. I was really interested. I actually bought my pasta. I had gnocchi because it's gluten free as well. I have to be veggie. I have to be gluten free. So it's so ideal for me. Thanks, Giulia. And what was interesting actually is it's not in the gluten free section.
Okay.
It's in the fresh pasta section. And even that for me is quite interesting when it comes to positioning, because they could go into that gluten-free section, but of course only people like me look in that section. It's not for everybody. So there's probably a wider market that she can attract if she goes into that fresh pasta section. Although you could argue maybe that then people aren't specifically looking for some of the things that they deliver. So it'd be really interesting even to see that type of thing, right? Where does it appear on the shelves?
Yeah. And distribution is obviously, absolutely fundamental, and it's all got to tie together. Otherwise, the proposition falls over. And I think, generally speaking, if you have to sort of generalise, people, undersell their product or service when really they should be going the other way. And you can always come down on price. It's hard to go up.
Well, it's like you said, it's such a psychology thing. It's such a mindset thing. I think for any of us who've ever grown up with money not being like completely abundant, right, or something that we don't even have to think about, anyone who has to think about it on a regular basis, we're very conscious of money being an incredibly valuable thing, and therefore not wanting to overprice things. And I think that often in business, people do overthink that and put too much pressure on that, when actually, depending on your positioning, depending on what you're selling, depending on the value that you're actually bringing, you can put that pricing in places that might even feel very uncomfortable to you, but somebody else isn't going to even question. I had it myself just in a simple invoice the other day where I sorry, not an invoice, in a proposal, and I sent something in, and it is actually a client I've had before, and my invoice is more now. And one of the reasons I'd actually brought it down, it had been bigger, and then I brought it down because I knew as a customer we'd had conversations and they couldn't do as much, so I'd kind of reduced what I was doing. And then this year I just kind of put it up again. I didn't have a conversation with them, and I was actually really worried of what's going to happen, and are they going to not want to even work with me and everything else, even though it's already like the dates are in the diary and stuff. And of course, if they'd have come back and said, look, that's not in our budget, I'd have had that conversation. We'd have figured out what we could do. But it was so interesting how that kind of fear of they're going to judge me based on how much money I've put in this invoice, and they're going to be so affronted by the idea that I've charged a bit more that they're not even going to talk to me. That's the kind of thing that a lot of the people I work with have, those kind of issues. And I guess it can be harder if you're in the kind of space where you're creating a new market, or it's complete new innovation, completely different type of product. I guess with something like Giulia's products, there's still an accepted range. If she went in and was like, it's 50 quid for one bag of gnocchi, like, none of us is going to be like, this is the most magical thing ever, let's start spending that amount on pasta, right? And I know she wouldn't want to do that either. But I think with certain innovations, and perhaps more on a B2B side than a B2C side, it can be really hard sometimes to even know what the benchmarks are on some of these pricing.
It is hard, especially like say if you're innovative and creating a new category, then it's hard to know where to start. I think going back to your point about pricing now, I think it's all about that value exchange. That's all money exists for, is to facilitate that exchange of value. Like you're adding value to the client, and they're obviously paying for that in the form of money. But rewind the clock back, and you were bartering or trading, when money wasn't around, then you'd be using other forms of exchange. And I think it's only you're creating additional value for them. Like it's not a zero-sum game. Like there's value creation in that exchange of services. That means 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
Yeah, and you're going to enable them to deliver. And actually, the thing that so many people forget is often the person that you are engaging with doesn't care how much you get paid, because then they're not even, obviously a budget holder needs to care one way or another because they're balancing budgets, and maybe somebody who has authority for that. But actually, often the people who who you are engaging with and who will be influencing for you on the inside, they don't care, or that, you know, like they're not trying to rip you off or try and get less from you. They're going, I want the thing you're going to deliver. You're making my life easier. So yeah, I'm not going to question that unless, like, for some reason I need to question that, and then you have that conversation, right? And so, and I guess like thinking of it as a conversation and thinking of it as a value exchange, and perhaps again this comes back to that confidence and like you backing yourself. It's almost like it comes back to what we were just saying at the end of part one around that piece of, do you respect your own dream? Do you respect your own value that you bring? Because if you do, then it's worth what it's worth, you know, to those people.
100%. And I think from a consumer point of view as well, like recently we've been way more conscious in terms of like what we're buying, and my wife's buying a lot of organic stuff, and obviously it's naturally a bit high, but food's priced really high anyway. So actually the 20% extra whatever you're paying for the premium of that, the fact that there's no pesticides and there's going to be more nutrition in it, and you know, looking at ingredients lists and making sure that you're not buying things with really bad ingredients in, like you're going to get more value to your body, which you really should be looking after. So I think it's all about, what value do you get from things?
And when I think about, I've spent, like I said, I've had it 3 times this week, and I think I've probably spent a tenner in total on those 3 meals, including like extra bits I added to it. Maybe not even that. It was on Nectar price, by the way, not to advertise Sainsbury's right now, but and that's a spoiler too, because I know that when you spoke to Giulia, she was trying to get it into the bigger supermarkets. It is on the shelves of Sainsbury's right now. So that's not crazy, right? For 3 meals. And of course, I live alone. I cook for myself. So there's always a bit of a premium on that anyway. And and like I said, because I'm gluten free too, I'm also not buying like the 90p pasta because it's more anyway for gluten free stuff. And it's been great and really healthy. There's vegetables packed into it, so I don't have to buy a ton of extra vegetables and stuff. It's
quick to make as well.
Very quick. I have an air fryer now, so
love an air fryer.
Yeah, it's very good in the air fryer. I can attest to that as well. Giulia, I'm your biggest fan now.
Got a champion here, Giulia.
You really do. I like it a lot. So she said something else that I thought was brilliant and very counter to some of the things we hear sometimes as founders. She said, when the train is coming, you don't have to jump straight away.
So true.
Yeah. And we're so conditioned to be like, your job as an entrepreneur is to see an opportunity and jump on it. And she was like, actually, no, not always. And I thought that was so powerful and so important, because I do think that's very true for so many of the founders that I work with sometimes. And maybe it comes back again to the point we were making in part one about stepping back. Sometimes you do need to step away and create some space. And in her case, there were specific reasons why actually overloading herself at that point in time, not the right thing.
Yeah, I think the analogy that I give is that when you're not where you want to be and you're a bit frustrated, things maybe aren't happening, what you end up doing is grasping at opportunities when they come along. Whereas, you're not properly evaluating, is it the right return on investment? Is this the right partner? Is this the right opportunity to get me where I want to get to? Because you're probably in that more of that scarcity mindset of like, I'm in survival mode. I'm not in thriving mode right now.
Do you know what I see happening all the time when people are in that place is that's when the comparisonitis comes in as well. Because I see people, they're grasping at all these opportunities, but they're also going, but look at that successful person and they've done it like this and I'm going to be exactly like that and then I will be successful too. And it doesn't work. And all those people end up being is frustrated and just, again, more burnt out. And instead of kind of pausing, breathing, getting comfortable with what it is they're actually trying to do, not, because often with the comparison thing, I find that people end up trying to be something, but they're trying to be something just because they see it in somebody else, not because that's the goal they're actually going after, or the vision, the dream. Again, maybe we're coming back to that idea of like, what's your North Star? What's your dream? And if you're just grasping at all those opportunities, that's not you going after your North Star.
Someone else's dream, in essence, that you're trying to follow. And like you say, because it's worked for them, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. It was a different time. It was a different opportunity. There's so many different variables. And I think, a lot of founders do try and apply that carbon copy. We see it all the time, don't we? Playbooks and things like that. And it's like, every business is different. Like, your dream is wildly different to the next. Like, I mean, it's so true. You just have to get yourself into that state of breathe. It's okay. Let's work out what I want to do. And just take it back to the fundamentals and the basics. Because if you're not operating at your best and you're getting carried away in terms of comparing yourself, really trying to push and force things through, then it's that place isn't going to get you to where you really want to get to.
I've been wondering recently about whether or not founder well-being, for want of a better word, I think maybe what we're describing isn't even that. It's like an alignment, really. But it's almost become a little bit of a taboo topic again. I feel like maybe, I don't know, take it back, say 10 years. Nobody was talking about well-being at all. And then everyone started talking about well-being. And then certain people have been like, yeah, but you still need to get up and do the job. And I think sometimes it gets a bit misconstrued. The idea of like you doing what's right for you doesn't mean never working hard. It doesn't mean never having long days or, getting really stuck into things. In fact, that's probably what you want as a founder. But do you think it's kind of becoming taboo? Are we getting a backlash on these kind of conversations?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there was, it wasn't spoken about, which obviously isn't the right way. And then, we've gone the other way, which is a way in the right direction. And then, like you say, there has been that backlash. And I think, like you say, it's that misalignment of not being, something's out of kilter. Something isn't right. You're not focused on what you need to be focused on. So I think if you're feeling like that right now, the best thing you could do is probably pause and reflect and then look at what you really want. Because to keep going and keep, flapping your arms around, like it might be okay in the short term, but in the long term, it's not going to get you there.
Yeah. And you're probably just going to burn out and then not get anywhere near where you want to get. I've had to say to some people as well, again, with this kind of comparison items piece, it really is about what success looks like to you versus what it looks like to other people. And some people, I've found that I've had to step back, and maybe that's where I'm lucky in my role. It's like hold up that mirror to certain people and say to them, yeah, but you don't want this. You're not about this. Like, at your core, if all somebody wants is, I want to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible. Okay, well, like maybe there are some playbooks around that, and that's part of business. But most of the people I work with, and most of the people around us, I think, are people who genuinely care and like genuinely have this passion around certain things. And actually, it might not look as immediately like that quick success, but probably over time, if you can persist, talk about this later on, but that's what's going to help you ultimately probably be bigger than maybe even some of those other people that you're comparing yourself to right now. So, as I said, we'll talk about some of these things in a minute, but before we do, let's have a listen in to what Giulia's going to be doing in the future.
We spoke about it before, but the FMCG market is moving quickly and there's lots of changes that are happening in the marketplace. Where do you see the future trends happening over the next 5 years?
Well, I think we are moving from the fake meat world, all of this processed, like new meat, literally moving away. I think people now, they want to go back to eat whole foods, like real food. So something that they know what they're eating. When you read the ingredient list, is something that they do understand. I think they also want to eat more local food. They like the idea of supporting small companies, which is great, and definitely be more mindful about their meat consumption, etc. But instead of eating fake meat, they will probably move to, legumes, beans, pasta, like good carbs for you or good vegetables for you, like something that has a real taste, but also it's healthy, because all of these fake meats, quite frankly, they are not healthy.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe you have a good impact on the like on the climate change, but definitely don't have a good impact on your own health. And I think people are happy to spend more money now on their own health. I think it's interesting enough, I was looking at some data the other day, and people do say that when they go looking for food, they look at all the environmental, like part of the brand. But then when they buy, there is a disconnection between the data of, I do care about the environment, but then when you look at the data of people buying for that reason, is very low. So clearly, I don't think people are there yet. That will happen. I'm not saying it's not happening. It will happen. But I think with with the cost of crisis, people are also careful about money. While when it comes to health, people now are happy to spend more money. And there is clearly a data that proved that. I think after COVID, the UK was one of the countries that had one of the highest number of deaths. So I think people are happy to spend more money on health, but not when it comes to environmental reason. So I think people are definitely moving to eat and drink again real food.
Continuing to look at the crystal ball, let's look ahead 5 years from now. What will success look like for Sunny and Luna, and how will you know that you've got there?
I think in 5 years' time, I see Sunny and Luna not just as a food brand, but I see as a lifestyle brand. So something that can really cover, like mental health. So maybe, like organizing talk, or maybe, like a workshop where, like there is also where we can talk about food and mental health, probably because I've been there and I care a lot about this topic. I would love maybe to have a real Sunny and Luna food corner, maybe a cafe, maybe a daily bar, something that people can also come and enjoy Sunny and Luna food there. And of course, going cross categories, so not just having pasta, but probably doing more product. We are already thinking how to expand, probably in sauces, probably getting into healthy ready meals. So definitely, expanding a few categories. And then, and probably not just the UK. So we launched it in Dubai in May, and the idea also, to expanding all over Europe. So it's, really trying to go international as much as we can.
Awesome. I love those expansion plans. They sound fantastic. And where can people find out a bit more about Sunny and Luna and you personally?
Well, we have our Instagram that we use. Of course, we are quite strong about that. We were at Taste of London in June. We will do next year. We will probably next month do a few events at our office, and we're going to do a couple of pop-ups, which we would love to do that. We actually talk a lot with our followers on Instagram. So I will say our main channel at the moment is that.
And what's the website address?
sanyaluna.co.uk.
Fantastic. Now, Giulia, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you had to distill down just one piece of advice for an early stage founder, what would that be?
Be persistent. I think that's the most important aspect that you need to have when you're a founder, because so many things happen, and ups and down, and initially probably you will have more down than ups. And if you look back, all the successful entrepreneur or the successful company, they all had very big down. But the one that really made it are the one that they were super persistent, and they were fighting and getting there. And it's hard out there. It's really, really hard. But persistency is the only thing I think it pay off. I never ever saw a company or a founder not going ahead because of whatever mistake, etc. if you're persistent, you will get there. And patience. You need to be patient as well. That's something I'm still learning, actually.
Some great advice there, Giulia. Now, there is an opportunity for you to ask our listeners a question. Have you got a question for our listeners, Giulia?
Yes. I would love to know what's their favorite pasta dishes between spaghetti cacio e pepe, gnocchi, bolognese tagliatelle, and pumpkin ravioli.
What a great question, and we'll get some answers to you that on our social channels. And yeah, you're making me hungry now. So
that was exactly what I was thinking. I hope people will listen over like a dinner time, so it kind of makes them even more hungry.
Giulia, listen, you've been an absolute amazing guest on the show. Thank you so much for your time and insights.
Thank you so much, and it was fantastic talking to you, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I told you all that your mouth would be watering by the end of this episode, and I bet it is right now. I know I've already talked about all of the gnocchi I've had this week. I had spinach gnocchi last night, and I'm like tasting it now as we're listening to all of this. So Giulia asked the question about what's your favourite pasta. So I do look forward to hearing what everyone's favourite pasta is. Do you have a favourite pasta?
I think it's got to be your standard spaghetti.
Yeah,
I think with a bolognese, that's probably one of my go-tos.
Growing up, that was my very favourite meal. And now I'm vegetarian and I can't eat pasta. Well, I'm gluten-free. But I can replicate it with all the various products that you can get these days.
But I think ultimately, pasta's such a great food. I like
so good.
Going to Italy, you can't beat it.
I'm going to Italy next week, but I kept thinking I wonder if Sunny and Luna is in the restaurants in Italy yet, because I don't know how much gluten-free stuff I'm going to find.
Yeah, that's true.
So I wanted to pick up on something that Giulia was talking about, which was she talked about persistence and she talked about patience. And I really got to thinking about persistence and patience actually are somewhat the same thing. In order to persist, sometimes you've got to know to be patient in order to keep going and keep going and keep going, and not just expect the thing to be there right now and then be like, it's not. So everything's give up. So I never really thought about those things together before, but I think as I'm getting older, in my old age, I'm beginning to think that patience is perhaps a precursor to be able to have that persistence over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's two great qualities to have. I think I've always had the persistence, not so much the patience.
Yeah.
But I think, like you say, one feeds the other, doesn't it? So the more patient you get, the more persistent you'll get. Yeah,
I think I give up on things too quickly because I'm not patient enough, because I'm like, this is annoying. It's not happening right now. Yeah. Fine then, throw my toys out the pram. Not even going to bother because it's not here right now. I think that is probably a fault that I have a little bit. I need to be a little more patient if something doesn't arrive on the first try. Keep going. There's a proven science to it, isn't it? I think it's like the 6th or 7th follow-up usually is the most productive in terms of closing something. Well, and I think that idea of patience, particularly when it comes to other people, I was at an event yesterday, and it was actually like a defense industry event, and we were at the Defense Academy, and the person who, one of the generals, gave a talk. Weirdly, he was also talking about persistence and patience, and they both came up, and he, one of the things he said was, look around the room. And he was talking to the business people in the room, and he said something along the lines of, are you understanding that the people in uniform are thinking, I don't know how to go and talk to business people. Whereas, I think of it from the founder perspective of, I don't know how to go and talk to people in, in this case, it was like those end users in the defense space. But I think we all do it if we're not kind of directly within that community of users or people who could be stakeholders in our business. It's really easy to think they don't want to talk to me, or, you know, I'm afraid to go and talk to them, and whether they might reject me. And we don't always think about it the other way around, of those people are probably thinking, oh my gosh, like this person's got all of these things to talk about and I don't really understand that world so much, so I don't know how to engage with it. And I thought that it was such a good perspective that he brought that up, because sometimes we do see ourselves as separate to one another, right? We're really siloed and we're making those assumptions.
Yeah, and I think that's when you're living in your head, right?
Yeah.
And all you need to do is get out there and have that conversation and realise the connection, and there's another human there. And
to that point,
you might not know anything about their world, but you can ask some questions.
Yeah, and even to that point on patience, right? Like people aren't always cracked immediately. And that makes sense. Why would we immediately trust somebody that we don't know? I mean, most of us have got enough baggage to not do that. So also that idea of like patience coming into those relationships and that relationship building, and whether that's part of that sales process or whether it's literally just building relationships with other people and going, let's be patient enough to allow them to show me that they're coming along with me. Not because like immediately they've jumped up and they've been excited, but because actually they've over time, like it's a really considered thing. I think that's probably a positive thing. It makes things deeper, right? So yeah, I'm trying to really embed that into the way that I'm thinking. And I guess that it comes to giving things space to roll out. So, and this might be, I experienced it a lot with my team actually when I was was founding my first business, and that team was growing, and sometimes you'd have frustrations because I'd feel like they weren't coming with me. And I remember vividly having a coaching session and talking about it, and somebody saying to me, well, how do you know they're not coming with you? And actually, even that very same day, I went back in the office and people had done certain things that showed me that they completely were on the same page and they totally understood these things, where I was thinking we were a million miles apart. And I just hadn't given it that space to roll out.
Yeah, I mean, anything in life, you need to give space to grow, don't you? Like the classic saying that one door closes and another one opens. Like you can't, sometimes you have to shut something down to allow something else to grow, or just give it that time to pause and reflect.
Yeah, and give things time to come to you, like you set those conditions, and then not everything just materializes immediately. That's not how the world works. That's not how people work. It kind of makes me think about cats, going back to cats really. Like actually, I mean, you get nowhere with a cat if you run up to it and you try and pick it up and cuddle it and everything else, right? It will just run away and give you that stare. But how do you set the conditions for them to come to you? And I think just going full circle on this episode, like how do you set the conditions so that your dreams, your passions can become that reality? I think that's a really nice way to think about building a business. And perhaps that's the sort of the Italian way. I don't know. But it feels like a foodie way, right? Like we don't just, well, actually, when I cook, I do expect it to take 6 minutes in the air fryer, which is what my Sunny and Luna gnocchi takes. But actually, most good cooking, and most of the chefs out there, all the good cooks out there, like, you take time over it.
Slow cooking, using lots of different ingredients. And, enjoying the process.
Exactly. I'm very happy to let Giulia do that for me. So I think that probably brings us to the end of this episode. Ollie, tell us about our next guest.
Yeah, we got a really cool guest, a guy called Greg McCallum, who is the No Bullshit Advisor. He's also got a podcast, so it was really good to speak to a fellow podcaster.
Amazing. I look forward to listening to the next episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. If you like what you've heard, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget, there's a big selection of previous episodes. Just search Founded and Grounded on your favourite podcast player. Thank you for listening to Founded and Grounded with Ollie Collard and Dr. Becky Sage. Don't forget to press that follow button to help us to grow the show.